Canadian soldiers were deployed in Afghanistan for more than a decade, often in harrowing, dangerous situations. Most came home safely, but many still face challenges resulting from their time overseas. Our Northeastern Hub journalist, Claude Sharma, recently checked into a proposal for a new place those facing mental health issues can go to heal. And Claude joins us now from our studio at Laurentian University in Sudbury. Claude, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Now, you have a story on tvo.org about veterans helping veterans. Can you tell me about the soldier that you had a chance to talk to?
Well, Jan, his name is Eric Kupel, 41-year-old retired paratrooper, born and raised in Sudbury. In the military was and is his life, his family deeply ingrained in it from generations that were either served in the military or there was some link to it. Now, he was there for 20 years and had 7 tours all overseas in Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Kosovo, and Bosnia. I got to speak to him earlier this week, a 2-hour conversation at his place, at his farm, and an interesting, down-to-earth guy who was really committed to the military and to his country.
So, Claude, tell me, why did his military career come to an end?
Well, Kupel suffered a number of injuries. One big incident happened in Afghanistan. While he was in a light armored vehicle, it hit an IED, which sent him forward in his vehicle, kind of ripping out his shoulder and getting arm injuries, as well as some head trauma. And then in 2010, during a training exercise, a flight training exercise in Petawawa, the conditions were poor that day, and he was ordered to deploy his parachute, jump out of the aircraft. And things didn't go too well. His chute didn't deploy properly, and he ended up crashing to the ground several hundred feet up in the air, shattering the left side of his body, suffered broken bones in his foot, his leg, his hip, his back, and subsequent tests showed that when he went to further evaluation, that concussions from previous incidents really caught up to him, and he had scarring on the brain, bleeding on the brain, so the doctors said, you know what, that's enough, and he was medically released back into civilian life.
And what is he doing now in civilian life?
So he is living in Hager, Ontario, which is just about 50 kilometers east of Sudbury. And what he's doing is something very special. He's building, in the process of building, the Quartz Ridge Sanctuary. So what that is pretty much a farm for those who have served and are suffering from PTSD. And when they get to this farm, there are many things to do: agriculture, farming, dealing with rescue animals, working with the community, possibly children in the schools. So reintegrating people back into society, and they're not just plunked there as well. They have help from a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a team there that evaluate them and say, you know what, okay, you're fit to go to this farm. And then it's a program that's expected to be 6 to 8 weeks. It's still a work in progress as he's trying to get more funds. He's using a lot of his own money. He is using his military pension and his cash out his RRSPs to make kind of his dream a real reality.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the people who take part in this program as well?
Yeah, so these are people who have served and who are suffering from PTSD. Now, PTSD can come from a number of different factors, but kind of one thing that Kupel told me is that, yes, there are things that happen overseas that are unimaginable, and they take them back and bring them back home with them. But he says something that people don't really see too often who are civilians, is that these soldiers have to deal with a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy when they get back. So filling out a form could be difficult. And some of these people who are filling out these forms have PTSD, so it's more difficult for them. So they think that when they get back, things will be easier when it comes to dealing with the government, but not so much. So when they come to this farm, the people who are suffering with PTSD will also be helped out with their filling out forms and kind of getting them reintegrated back into society much easier.
I want to get an idea of what the federal government, in particular Veteran Affairs Canada, is doing to help.
Well, a number of things. A couple of firsts happened last year. Let's start off with a release, a detailed analysis of comparing veterans who've committed suicide to just the general population. And they found out that male veterans are 1.4 more times likely to end their own lives. For females, that's 1.8. Another thing they released as well is a joint effort for a prevention suicide strategy with the Canadian Armed Forces and Veteran Affairs Canada, is to further help these veterans who are coming back. Putting more services in place, making their transition easier, having more caseworkers per soldier, filling out those forms, being able to reintegrate them back into society that many find very difficult once they arrive back here in Canada.
All right, Claude, very, very important topic, of course, and of course we can see that on tvo.org. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.